अज्ञान तिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जन शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन कृपालु गुरवे नमः। ध्यानमूलम् गुरुर्मूर्तिः पूजामूलम् गुरुपदम्। मन्त्रमूलम् गुरुर्वाक्यम् भक्तिमूलम् गुरु कृपा। हृदं भोजे कृष्णः सजल जलदश्यामलतनु सरोजाक्षः स्रग्वीमुकुटकटकाद्या भरणवान् शरद्रागानाथ प्रतिमवदनः श्रीमुरलिका वहन्ध्येयो गोपीगण परिवृतः कुङ्कुमचितः यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तद्वंह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशम् मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। गोपालु राधे कृष्ण गोविंद 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 Radhe Krishna Govinda लाडली लाल की. The prasad must have tasted really good this evening. I could barely hear you all. So I will be speaking for the next hour, and I'd like to ask for your undivided attention. Spiritually inclined souls, correct knowledge leads to correct actions, and incorrect knowledge induces wrongful actions. The same thing applies with the path of divine love realization. If you have found the true path, you may rapidly proceed on your path to God. But if not, you may spend your entire life following your accepted path, but with no avail, because your accepted path was misleading. Nowadays, the effects of Kali Yuga are so vigorously prevalent in society that thousands of fictitious paths in the name of God are being articulated and propagated in a fanciful style by the so-called teachers and preachers and sadhus and yogis and gurus and monks and pontiffs and masters. Simple-hearted, God-fearing people fall for them, and as a result, they remain bereft of the true devotional benefit in spite of their faithful services which they offer to their teachers. It is such an age, this age of Kali, that even a true aspirant of God finds it very difficult to find the true path. And thus, to elevate, to inspire deserving souls, the supreme divine power in its magnificent form and its full magnificence descended on this earth as Bhakti Yoga Rasavatar Jagadguru Shri Kripalu Ji Maharaj, whose satsangs, teachings, speeches, and association have shattered the cloud of spiritual confusions and showed us the true, simple, and effective path of the realization of the selfless divine love of Shri Radha Krishna, which can be followed by anyone in this world. For the good of the souls, Shri Maharaji has revealed 1,008 pad, songs known as Prem Ras Madira of Shri Radha Krishna Leelas, humbleness, and the philosophy of divine love. We must understand that every aspect of divine love is ever new with its ever increasing charm. The Leela bliss of Shri Krishna that amazed the creator Brahma and bewildered God Shiva was a ray of Shri Radha Rani's grace, which manifested Maharaj. Such was the charm of Maharaj that its mere glimpse swooned the celestial goddesses with overjoyousness and immobilized the animals and the birds of Vrindaban with its amazing excitement. It even animated the static beings of Vrindaban, the plants, the trees, the vines, with its overgrowing, with the thrill of its overgrowing blissfulness that permeated the entire atmosphere. And in that delightfulness, they all bloomed to their maximum with their most pleasing perfume. All of those leelas happened on this earth in Braj Dham in India. It was just the gracious kindness of Shri Radha Krishna who revealed these leelas for the enlightenment of deserving souls. For us, souls of this age of Kali, the devotional value of the divine songs as revealed by Shri Maharaji is distinguished from the fact that in comparison to the writings of other rustic saints like Swami Haridas, Surdas, Nandadas, etc., the flow and the richness of the language, along with its inherent divine character, is rather unique. the simplicity and the depth of expression of the loving leelas of Shri Radha Krishna as have been revealed by Shri Maharaji is so charming that it goes directly to the heart. Directly to the heart. But in order for it to be felt in the heart, we have to open our heart. We have to make ourselves receptive. That is what we have to do. The path that I have chosen from Prem Ras Madira, it is from Siddhant Madhuri. Siddhant means philosophy, divine knowledge. So in the Siddhant Madhuri of Prem Ras Madira, Shri Maharaji advises the souls of the world and tells about the extreme preciousness of this human life, which is the only opportunity of God realization. The deceptiveness of worldly relations in entertainments. The disastrous consequences of wasting time carelessly and not utilizing this opportunity. And the infinite grace of Shri Radha Krishna upon you and all the souls of the world. So Shri Maharaji advises the devotee to wholeheartedly surrender to our true divine friend and our beloved Shri Radha Krishna, so that we can be free from the bondage of Maya and perceive the bliss of the loving Leelas of Shri Radha Krishna and feel their intimate closeness with their divine grace. So using a very potent self-education method, Shri Maharaji simulates himself as a devotee. Char, Dina ki baat Char Dina ki baat ai Char Dina ki baat ai चार दिना की बात अरे मन Oh mind, this worldly charm is transient. It is temporary. Char dina ki. Char dina, literally translated, 4 days. But it indicates that it's short-lived. So what we have to understand is, here, as we can see, the mind is being addressed. The mind is being addressed, but who is addressing the mind? That is what we need to understand. Most of us here, I imagine, have heard the word antahakaran. Antahakaran. Antahakaran itna malin ho chuka hai. We utter this word in our daily prayer. So the combination of the mind, the intellect, and our sanskars, subtle impressions left on the mind due to the activities of our past lives, are known as sanskars. So the internal machinery that consists of the mind, intellect, and our sanskars is collectively known as the antahakaran. And this antahakaran, it accompanies us, the soul, even after death. All of our thoughts and actions through the cycle of life and death until the point of God realization, they remain with us, the soul. So let us try to understand what this antahakaran is. Antaha means internal, and karan means that which works. So antahakaran means the internal machinery. The Gita describes it as having two partitions, mind and intellect, man, buddhi. The Sankhya Darshan describes it as having three, man, buddhi, ahankar, mind, intellect, and ego. And Advaita Vedanta describes it as having four partitions, man, buddhi, chitta, ahankar, mind, intellect, reflections of the inner self, chitta, and ego, ahankar. But for our purpose, although all of this is just a matter of terminology, for our purpose, we shall look at it as two. In the Gita, Shri Krishna describes it as having two parts, two partitions. Mayeva mana adhatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya Gita. So the mind and the intellect, the combination of these two is what is called antahakaran. So what does the mind do? How does the system work? So first and foremost, the mind grasps the objects of sight, smell, sound, taste, and touch with the help of the senses. Without the involvement of the mind, the senses cannot do anything on their own or independently. So when the mind is preoccupied with something, then we do not see, hear, or smell anything. If you fall asleep, or if you doze off during a discourse or a kirtan session, you will not hear anything even though words will be entering your ears. You will not hear anything. So it is the mind that grasps the objects or that perceives the objects, but it does so with the help of the senses. Next, the mind begins the thinking process. So it generates options regarding the object that is in front of the mind. Is this a woman or a man? Should I look upon this person with love, with animosity, or should I be neutral or with indifference? Will my self-interest be helped or harmed? So after this analysis, the mind relays the information to what is called the intellect or the discriminating mind. So the intellect will pass a judgment. And the intellect says, this person is no one to you. You don't know this person, so move on. So you pass that person by. In this way, when you walk through the marketplace, you come across so many people, and the mind keeps passing judgment. Keep moving, and you just keep moving through the crowd. But the moment you spot someone familiar, someone that you recognize, what do? You immediately stop, you greet that person, you acknowledge that person. Hello, how are you? When did you come to Austin? And so forth. So this joyful reaction takes place because the intellect tells the mind that this person is dear to you. And therefore, this is how you should behave. This is how you should interact with this person. So the mind, in turn, tells the senses. But until then, until that person was spotted, someone familiar, you saw so many people in the market. Yes. But the intellect did not instruct the mind to talk to the rest of the people. No. So the mind's work takes place twice. First, it will grasp the objects of the senses, analyze it, and send that information to the intellect. And then the intellect will pass the judgment. So the mind receives the instructions of the intellect, and then the mind will tell the senses to behave or to act. So this is how it works. This is how this machinery, antahakaran, operates. Now, what is the implication of this? Now, someone who is wise, his mind also perceives the external objects of the senses. So what does the mind do? Relays that information to the intellect. Now the intellect, being firm in the knowledge received from the Guru, what does it do? It passes the judgment. So the intellect says to the mind, do not direct the senses there. In other words, the intellect says, this is not mine. These objects are not going to give me the fulfillment that I am seeking. So what does the intellect do? It instructs the mind not to direct the senses there. So the mind does not object, nor do the senses. And why would they? Because they're mere servants. They only do as they are told. That is all they do. Just like if you instruct a horse to take a particular path, it does so. If a driver turns the wheels of the car down a certain road, the wheels do not object. They follow the instructions. So they have nothing to lose, or they do not lose anything. They move irrespective of the directions. So the mind and the senses absolutely have no objection. So everything depends on the decision of the intellect. This is why we require the power of discrimination. This is why. This is a must, and without it, our common sense of infinite lifetimes will tell us that the world is ours. That is what it's going to tell us. We would be swayed by it. People are running after the world even in old age, in the direction of the world, even in old age, even after retirement. If a man does not have a wife and a child, he'll find another's wife and a child to serve. He will adopt somebody's child and spend years raising that child. In this way, we knowingly bring upon ourselves the tensions, frustrations, and anxieties that accompany material desires. We never make an attempt to get out of this mess. We don't. Shri Maharaj says that when I tell people that, your son has grown up, now he is earning, so why don't you give up all your family responsibilities and spend time in sadhana? So people tell Maharaji, when Maharaji says this, that Maharaji, my son is still a child. He's still a child and he doesn't know how to manage the affairs of the business, so I must help him. So Shri Maharaji says, what do you expect? Your son will grow up and become your own father? Is he going to become your father? He will always remain your child. When, if not now, you will think about your spiritual life? When? If you will not think about it now. Yes, Maharaji, what you're saying is absolutely true, but my intellect, my buddhi, because this intellect is a product of Maya. And so it wants to go by its practice of infinite lifetimes. So such a person can never move, can never become inclined toward God. It is only the one who surrenders his intellect at the lotus feet of a God-realized personality that has any hope of making progress in one's spiritual life. So it is our own intellect which is responsible for this quandary we are in. It is our own intellect. So we will have to be very careful until our intellect becomes decisive. And the intellect will become decisive only when Shri Krishna will come directly in front of us, face to face. And we will attain divine bliss. Until then, there is constant danger of downfall. That's why Shri Maharaji says that ordinary sadhaks, devotees, should not harbor this pride that, oh, I know it all. I've heard this lecture so many times, and I know it. And that nothing can disturb me. One should never harbor such pride, Shri Maharaji says. Because, just as an example, you may have rowed 190 yards across a river that is 200 yards wide. But you have not reached the shore. And if you think that you're going to leave the safety of the boat, and if you think that you're going to make an attempt to jump, well, you may still drown. So until one reaches the safety line, in other words, God realization, having Shri Krishna in front of you, should never trust your buddhi. So to answer the question that who is addressing the mind, it is the intellect. The mind being the desiring faculty, desires, and the intellect, it discriminates. It's a discriminating mind. So there's one, the desiring mind is known as the mind, and the discriminating mind is known as the intellect. So the intellect, after having received knowledge from a genuine God-realized personality, is addressing the mind. Char, Dina ki Baat. Let us continue. Char Dina ki baat are mar Sharat Chandani Naratanu Sharad Dina ki baat There's a verse in the Vedas, in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Tameva vidittvati mrityumeti nanyah pantha vidyate yanaya. It is only by knowing him that he can cross it. There's no other way possible. This is the literal meaning of this Veda mantra. So, this Veda mantra, it does not render the meaning clear. On the contrary, it gives rise to three important questions. Who is he who has to be known? Who is he who has to know him? And what is it that has to be crossed? So, God has to be known. The individual soul has to attain the knowledge of God. And Maya, or the cosmic ocean of this material existence, has to be crossed. So now the meaning becomes clear. It is only by knowing God can the individual soul cross the ocean of Maya. There's no other way possible. Now, reflecting on this verse, a question may arise in your mind as to who can know God. Are the Vedas telling us that all living creatures can know God? We are likely to think so because the Vedas also declare Amritasya vai putraha, that all the souls are the children of God. So it's very easy for us to conclude that perhaps all living creatures can attain the knowledge of God, but it is not so. Because the Garuda Puran tells us, Namanusham vinanyatra tattva jnanam tu labhyate. So the Garuda Puran tells us that except for humans, it is not possible for any other living being to attain the knowledge of God. And for this reason, the Vedas, they issue a warning to us. They alert us. So they tell us, Iha cheda vedidatha satyamasti na chediha vedin mahati vinashtihi kenopanishad. That, oh humans, do not waste precious time fussing with your cell phones during a lecture, thinking that Diwakari is not going to see it, but I can see everything across the audience. So do not waste precious time. Strive to reach your ultimate goal. Because if you won't, then you will inflict great harm upon yourself. And what is that harm? Ihache dashakat bodhum prak sharirasya visrasaha tatah sargeshu lokeshu sharirattvaya kalpate kathopanishad. That if we do not strive to reach our goal, then we will have to rotate endlessly in the cycle of birth and death for an unimaginable length of time. This is what the Vedas tell us, and therefore, Uttishthata jagrata prapya varan nibodhata. Utho jago, arise, awake, and seek the association of saints and acquire divine knowledge. This is what the Vedas tell us. Let us look into the Puranas. Bhagavan Vedavyas, a descension of God and the composer of the 18 Puranas, he emphasizes the immense significance of human life. And he tells us in the Bhagavatam, Durlabho manusho deho dehinam kshanabhanguraha. Human life is most difficult to attain. And the rarity of human life is evident from the fact that merely 7 billion humans inhabit this earth. But in a 1 foot deep hole in the ground, we can find hundreds and thousands of tiny little souls, creatures. So we can imagine how rare this human body is. He further tells us in the Narad Puran, Durlabham manusham janma prarthyate tridashairapi. All living beings, they beg the Supreme Lord for a human birth. Why? Because, as it is described in the Mahabharata, Namanusha Shreshthataram Hikinchit. There's no form of life superior to the human form. There's no other form of life. And that is why the Mahabharata further tells us, Janmantara sahasrestu manushyatvam hi durlabham. That after thousands and thousands of births, does one receive the privilege to be endowed with a human body? Can one secure this human birth? It is so rare. So Vedavyas again tells us in the Puranas, in the Bhagavatam, Nidehamadyam sulabham sudurlabham plavam sukalpam guru karnadharam mayanukule nana bhasvateritam puman bhavabhim nataret sa atmaha. Bhagavatam. You have been provided with this human body, which is as a most competent vessel. It is propelled by the favorable wind of my grace and steered by an expert guide in the form of a guru. So in spite of being blessed with these three gifts, if you still do not attempt to cross this ocean of Maya, then you are a true slayer of your soul. That is what Vedavyas Ji tells us. And Tulsidas Ji has translated this verse in his Ramayana. Naratanubhav varidhi kahu bero sanmukha maruta anugraha mero karanadhar sadguru dridhanava duralabh saj sulabh kari pava. This human body is like a veritable raft to take one across the ocean of Maya. And a worthy preceptor is the helmsman to steer this mighty raft. And God's grace is the favorable wind. Even though this combination is rather difficult to attain, it has been made easily available with God's grace. So Tulsidas Ji further tells us in the Ramayana, Bade bhag manush tanu pava sur durlabh sagranthani gava. You have received this human body with great fortune. It is desired by even the heavenly gods, and the scriptures sing its glories. So he further tells us, Kabahuk kari karuna nardehi deta ish binu hetu sanehi. Rarely does God, who selflessly loves the souls, bestows this human life. Rarely. It is so rare. This is what Tulsidas Ji tells us in the Ramayana. In Adi Jagadguru Shankaracharya, he tells us, Durlabham trayamevaitad daivanugrahakarakam manusyatvam mukshutvam mahapurusha sambhavaha. Being born a human, having a thirst or even hunger for God, and being blessed with saintly association are the three most rare things one can attain. But even out of these three, receiving a human birth is most rare, because it is only after receiving a human birth can one have a desire for God and benefit from divine association. So Shankaracharya further tells us, Manuja dehamimam bhuvi durlabham samadhigam yasurai rapivanchitam vishayalam patitam apahaya vai bhajatare manujah kamalapatim. So once again, Shankaracharya inspires us and enlightens us, and he tells us that after so many times of reincarnating into various forms of life, have we received this precious life. So instead of running after the material things, wasting your life in pursuit of mundane gratifications, utilize this opportunity to realize the ultimate. Strive for the best, the ultimate, which one can do only after receiving such a birth, such a human birth. So I have quoted the scriptures and the saints. Shri Maharaji has also revealed the virtues of this human life, extolling the importance of this human life in the Prem Ras Madira. In one of the pads that he composed, we chanted it this morning. For those of us who were here, you must have heard. Naratanu baram bar milat nahi. Naratanu baram bar milat nahi. Kabahun ka kari karuna karuna kar. Kabahun ka kari karuna karuna kar. Den deh sansar milat nahi. उलटो टांगी बांधी मुख गर्भहि. उलटो टांगी बांधी मुख गर्भहि. समझाए हूँ जग सार मिलत नहीं. दीन ज्ञान जब कीन प्रतिज्ञा. दीन ज्ञान जब कीन प्रतिज्ञा. भजी हो नंद कुमार dasha bhai puni bhuli gayo so dasha bhai puni jo rahi garbha majhar milat nahi yah kripalu nartanu sur durlabh yah kripalu nartanu sur durlabh sumiru sumiru sham sarkar milat nahi nartanu baram bar milat nahi. This human body is not something which we are going to keep receiving life after life unless we deserve it, unless we qualify ourselves. So rarely, as I mentioned earlier, does God, out of his gracious kindness, out of his mercy, he bestows a human life. So as a baby, one is suspended upside down in the mother's womb with the mouth closed so that one cannot protest. And this is done to give one a foretaste of the world to come. Of the world to come. So when the soul, when this knowledge dawns on the soul, it makes a vow. Get me out of this hell, this filth, this narak. I promise I will worship you. Bhaji ho Nand Kumar. I promise. But when the soul takes birth and gets caught up in the elusive appearance of this world and worldly relations, then what happens? Then he goes back to that same pitiable state and condition that he was when in the mother's womb. So, Shri Maharaj says that this naratanu, this human life, is very rare and is desired by the celestial gods and goddesses. It is not even accessible to them. And therefore, Sumiru, worship Shyama Sarkar, Shri Krishna. So in this line, Naratanu Sharada Chandani Bite. So while we have this human life, we have an opportunity to utilize it to reach our ultimate destination. But if we don't, if we carelessly waste it in pursuit of worldly entertainments, then one day it will perish, just like anything and everything in this world. It has a beginning, it has an end. So Sri Maharaji gives an analogy to describe the preciousness of this life. So in this line he says, Naratanu Sharada Chandani. So the most auspicious full moon night of Sharad Purnima. So this human birth is so auspicious, it is so precious. But when it will end, when it will be snatched away, then there will be deep, long, scary nights beyond. So this is what is indicated or implied puni andhyari, we will be subjected to that darkness in the form of endless suffering as a consequence of or for neglecting this opportunity. As Adi Jagadguru Shankaracharya has described, that as a consequence, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam, iha sansare khaludustare, kripaya pare, pahi murare, bhaj govindam, govindam bhaj mudhamate. So as a consequence, punarapi jananam, we will be thrown in that cycle of rebirth and death again and again, hanging upside down in a mother's womb, not necessarily a human mother, could be any mother, cat, dog, donkey, any, and suffer intensely. So the remaining lines I will be elaborating on over the next 2 days. I will end my talk this evening here. Radhe Radhe. Shrimad Sadguru Sarkar ki, Shrimad Yugal Sarkar ki, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri